Recording. Okay. Now, as I said, today we are going to look at us building a profile site. We are going to build a simple profile site, and we're going to take it from there. Okay.
Mm.
Simple profile site. We're going to design nothing extraordinary, just something simple that you can do for yourself. Um, our site is going to start with an index page. So I'm going to create an index page. It's always going to be index.html. And we have done this over and over again now, so we know how to open the index page. Our site is going to have the basic structure of the HTML page. So I'll have the basic structure of the HTML page over here. So HTML:5. This. Now, over here, I'm going to put in the title of my page. So let's see, the title of my page is going to be for, let's say, John Doe slash web developer. So this is the title web. Okay. Now, we are going to use certain attributes from online sources. Now, these attributes will allow us to modernize our design, like modernize the way in which we are going to build our entire site. First thing we are going to need is fonts. Most of the fonts in which are on your computer are old and we don't want to use them. So we need fonts. So I would go and use fonts from the Google Font Library. This library, when you go online, you can get it. What I will do is that because it is too long, I'll put it in your WhatsApp so that you can have this over here. We are also going to use Ajax to build some of our components. Ajax is a framework of JavaScript. So we are going to use Ajax. And again, I'll just give you the link for the Ajax so that you don't have to type these. These are codes which are there already for you to utilize so that you don't have to start from scratch every single time. You can just start from a particular location. Wonderful. With that, I'll design the structure of my work. Then I'll move to the JavaScript, the CSS. So the structure of my work is as follows. I'm going to have a place for the person to have head information, about information, the products I did, my contact page, and a footer. So in here, I'm going to have a header tag. Over here, I'm going to have a section tag. Over here, I'm going to have another section tag. Over here, I'll have another section tag. So my main information, my head information, like the title, home, click, buttons in which people click. Then here we'll have our home, about us, projects, then contacts. So here I have a section for contacts. And finally, I'll have the footer section. So footer. Now, these tags are semantic tags. I could have just did a div tag, div tag, div tag, div tag, div tag, div tag. They could have all been a div tag. But when you give it this kind of meaning, when your browser gets it, it treats it like the section is supposed to be. When people are searching, they can understand that, oh, this is a section of code, and this is what this section is supposed to do. So it gives them more meaning to what it is doing. My head information will not have an ID, but my section information will have an ID of home, and then we'll have a class of home, of, let's make it hero. My section will also have an ID of about and a class of about. This section here will have an ID of projects. I also have a class of what? Project. This section here will have an ID of contacts, and we'll have a class of contact. Wonderful. So this is the structure. These are the sections I want. So now I have a fair idea of the sections in which I want. In here, I have div tag, and my div tag is going to have a class called container. In the div tag called container, I'll have a navigation section. And in my navigation section, I'll have another div tag with the class called logo. And my logo is going to be the person's name, which is going to be John. And then over here, I'll use a span so that I can make the door a different color from there, John. In the navigation section, I also need an ordered list, that is a UL. This unordered list will have a class called nav space links. And in this nav space link, I'll have an li for home, about, and contact. The beauty of this is it means that every time I click here, every time in which I click on this, I come to home. Every time I click on this, I go to about. Every time in which I click on this, I go to project. So me clicking on them takes me to where their ID are. You see that I'm using hash, which means ID. So I'm pointing the thing to the ID that I have. The final thing in which I require is a mobile toggle so that when the person is using a mobile phone, instead of me showing all of those items, I'll show him a mobile toggle. Then he can click on it to show all the items which are there. So here I've created a mobile toggle, and in here I'll put in this. So on my screen, let's see what I have. I have this. So I have John Doe, I have home, about, projects, contacts, and I have this here so that when someone clicks on it, they can all go and come back. Now, I must design this. So I'll click here, I'll click on link, and I'll create a link for my CSS. Obviously, I haven't created a CSS here, so I have two choices. I can either click this and type CSS styles.css here, or I can just press Control and click on this. The computer will tell me this does not exist. Then I'll say create it, and it will just create it on the side here for me. Now, I'm going to write in the code for the head section. The code for the head section and the CSS code for the head section. First thing, I must make the common rules that I have. The common rules. And what are the common rules that I have? All, comma, all CSSs before. So before you go and click on a particular CSS, all CSS after you click on a particular CSS, make sure it is margin 0, padding 0. What this will do is that it will remove all the space in what I have. So you can see that everything is in the corner. There are no spaces there so that I can control the spaces that I want the items to be. So that if I tell you to be 2, you are 2. It's not 2 plus something. All spaces have been removed. And we are treating all the items like they are boxes so that it will be easy for us to locate and move them to places in which we want. I am going to create a root file. A root file is like a variable for CSS. Now, in here, I can say that and you use minus minus to show that you are storing something. And I can say that my primary is going to be hashtag 4361E. That means that instead of me always thinking of the color, I will think of primary and I have my color. My primary dark is going to be 3A56D4. My secondary color is going to be pink. I will create a color for dark, which is going to be which is going to be hashtag 121212. I'm going to create a color for light, which is going to be hashtag F8, F9, FA, semicolon. I'm going to create a color for gray. So I'm going to create a gray color, which is going to be hashtag 6C757D. I'm going to create a light gray color, which is going to be this. And finally, I'm going to make sure that it knows that my border radius is 12 and all my transitions are going to be ease in 3 seconds. So if something is coming, it should come slowly in 0.3 seconds. Then the rest of the things I'm doing here is setting a shadow so that the things will have a shadow. When you give something a shadow, it makes it look 3D and realistic. So all of the things here are various shadows. I have a small shadow, a mild shadow, and a large shadow for what I want to do. Why do we do this? We do this so that if you want to change the color, if someone comes to you and says, oh, the work you are doing, I don't like the blue. Right now, I want the color to be green. It means all you have to do is change here to green, and every single location in your code would correspond and change to green. Let's see this in action. I'm going to say the body tag. And in the body tag, I should have a font family of Inter. My background color should be light. So this light here is being picked from here. My color should be dark, and this dark here is being picked from here. The line height should be 1.7. That means that all the writings I have on my screen, the line between them should be 1.7. So if I come into my code here, you can see that it is applying. I have the background this. You can see that there's some nice space between all the things I have here because their line space should be 1.7. And if there are any overflows mean that sometimes when you do a site, um, it goes outside of your page. Like here, it will be coming out, like where the cursor is, it will be coming out here. So it's not everything would be on your screen. We are saying that anything that is an overflow, just hide it. We don't want to deal with it on the x-axis. We are saying also that if I have an image, make sure the maximum width of the image is 100%. Make sure the height of the image is auto. Make sure the display of the image is block. I'm also saying that if I have an A tag, make sure the text decoration of the A tag is none. You can see that immediately in my code, I have an A tag here. When we come to the screen here, it's none. So all of the things which make the lines under them are all gone away. So the decorations are gone. The color should be inherit. And the transition should be transition. And we have already specified the transition we want. We said if it is a transition, it should be all and ease. So when I come in here and I do, you see that there is some small delay before they stand where they are standing. That is the ease. Now we can start to attack container. So now I'm attacking container. Container is a class. So I'm going to say dot container should be 200, 100 and 1,200 pixels wide. Okay, so here the width should be 90%, and then the max width should be 1,200 pixels wide. The margin should be 0 and auto, so this is quite correct. But the padding of it should also be 0 and 1 REM. Again, when we come to our code here, we can see that the container has been moved into 90% of the screen, and it has also been given a width of 1,200 pixels. The section itself, if something is a section, then it should be given a padding of 5 REM and nothing else, so that whenever we have a section, we'll have a nice gap between it and the lines in which it is touching. Beautiful. There are some other things we have to do. We are saying that if I have a section as a class and it is called section title, the font family of it, so font family should be Playfair Display. All of these fonts are coming from the font in which we put over here. So when we go over here, we'll see all of the fonts there. So there's no need for you to worry yourself. You can see the Playfair over here. All of the fonts we want are here. So they will be imported into our code. If we don't bring this, the fonts will not be added. So I'm here now. We want to say that the font size should be 2.5 REM. We want to say that the text should all be aligned in the center. We want to say that the bottom margin should be 3. We want to say that their positioning should be relative. And finally, we want their color to come from a variable, which is going to be the variable dark. So when I come in here and I refresh my screen, I'll have this going on. But none of these things are a class section so far. Also, we are going to write dot section title, and we are going to say after. So this means that after the section title is shown, what should happen to it? You can also do before the thing is shown, what should happen to it? We are saying that after it's shown, it should disappear. It should have a width of 80 pixels, a height of 4 pixels. The color should be moved to blue. It should be a block and a margin, and it should be rounded. So this is what should happen to it. Now, the header file. All of the things in which we have here are in the head file. So what are we saying to the head file? We are saying that if you are the head file, then your background should be, or your background color should be white. But we are using the RGB colors. That is red, green, blue, alpha. So I'm giving the value for red, the value for blue, the value for blue, and then the value for the alpha, which would give it each shade of color. Again, if I refresh the screen, this is what I am getting. So over here is supposed to be comma, over here is supposed to also be comma. Perfect. So I get white. So you can see white is here contrasting these two. Lovely. We can say that the backdrop filter should be blur by 10 pixels. So when I come back here, it will be just a bit blurred out so that this one can stand out. Everything about design is a control. So you will not know all the controls in the beginning. You realize that the more sites you do, the more you start to think of a design choice for yourself. Then you start to pick things which favor you. The positioning of the thing should be fixed. The width of the thing should be 100. The top of the thing should have 0 spacing. The Z index, and the Z index tells you like if I have something on top of something, which one should, like, how will I say it? The higher the value, the more the thing is on top. So we want this thing to always be on top. So I'm making it 1,000. That means that if something comes and it is under it, you would see that one on top. It will always be on top. Like a book, like if you have 2 books, one red, one blue. If you want the red one to be on top of the blue one, you make the value of the red one high so that it will always be on top of the blue one. My box shadowing should be shadow. And then my transition should be the transition variable. Now let's see this in action. You see that there is a nice shadow over here. If you can see it very well, that is why we use the shadow. like to give us a nice shadow. Like it looks like it has popped out of the screen. Very nice. So what we just worked on is everything that is in this. So now we are coming to work on this one, the nav bar. We are saying that if we have the .nav, or it is a tag, so just nav, we want the display to be what? Flex, justify content space between, align item center, and padding should be 1 area. So here you can see that the items here have space in between them quite beautifully. To be honest, this thing here should also be on the side here. So let's see why it is not there. Did I do a mistake here? Let me open this. Let me see. Yes, I did. This thing here should be inside the nav bar. So you can see how you start to see errors with your design. Once the thing is not also spacing out, because I said space out, so this and this and this and this should be equal spaces between them all. All the items over here should be in the nav bar, so that I'm telling the nav bar that it should have that effect on all of my code. So back to my CSS, I'm going to take the items one by one. The first one we said was the dot logo. We said the logo should have a font weight of 700. So it should be very, very, very bold. So you can see it is bold, the John, it's bold. And over here, let me just give a nice space between this and this so that the space can be seen. Beautiful. So a nice space between that. Now, in here, I'm going to say the font size should be 1.5 REM. And we want the color to be the primary color. So now we have John Doe being what? Blue. Remember, it means that if I want to change the primary color, I just change it at one place and all the other places will just fall in line. So that if I'm dealing with a client that doesn't know the color in which they want, I can use this to determine the color in which they want. And I want this column span to be my secondary color. The moment I do that, then I'll have John and I'll have this as my secondary color being pink, just like that. Now that we are done with this one, let's move to this one. We want it also to display as flex. So we'll say dot navigation links should be list style none so that there will be no dots beside them. They should display as flex, so they'll display in one row. And we want the gap between them to be 2 REM, so that over here they are all displaying on one line and we have spaces in between them that are equal. But the things we have there, they are not only list items, they are A items too. So we must apply a change to the A items. So I'm going to say dot nav A. And then in there, I want the font weight to be 500. I want the color of them to be dark. I want their positioning to be relative. And I want their padding to be 0.5 REM and 0. So that with this, they can pop up on the screen. So they pop. Now, if I bring my cursor close to these things, I want something to happen. So after my cursor has gone there, I want something to happen. So I'll say dot nav links A after. And after it, I want my content to be empty. I want my position to be absolute. I want my bottom to be 0. I want my left to be 0. I want my width to be 0. I want my height to be 2 pixels. And I want my primary color and my transition color. What would this do? It means that when I come in here and then I come here, I should start seeing an effect on them when I come in. But no effect happened, right? So let's see. If I go again and say .nav links hover after, and I say it should be 100%. So here, the color, let's make it background. Mhm. Let's see what happens. So when I come here, I see a nice line beneath all of them. And then that is after I have put my cursor there. So that and I've given it a small transition delay. So that when I put my cursor there, then it will come. When I put my there, then it will come. So it is after. So that gives this nice design. Then you can know how the transition is feeling. But this is there. This should not be there. It should only be there when the person is using a mobile phone. So I'm going to say dot mobile toggle should display none, have a font size of 1.5 REM. The cursor should be a pointer and it should be that. The moment I break display none over there, you can see that it disappears. If I remove the display none from there, it will still remain there. And then it has made it big itself a bit like this. But remember, we don't want it there until the person changes the size of screen he has. So we'll have it like this. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, let us move to the next section then. The next section is going to be our home. So here we have our home. So I'll code in here. One second, please. Okay, so in here, we are going to say container. So div class equal to container. Remember, you have already done what should happen to if something is a container already. So that will happen to the thing because this is also a container. And then in here, we are going to break our thing down into two. We are going to have the first div tag over here. And then we are going to have another div tag over here. So we are going to have two sections inside of the container. Mhm. Or better still, we are going to have a class hero minus container. And then inside the hero container, we are going to have two containers in there. So one container, two containers. So we're going to have two containers in here like this. So this is our structure. Wonderful. Or here, let's call it content. so it doesn't mix with the container. Now, in here, I'm going to say class is equal to hero hyphen text. And then over here, I'm going to say class is equal to hero hyphen image. Beautiful. Now, this is going to fade in. So let me say fade in. And this is also going to fade in. This means that it has one class, two classes. It has two classes. People can have two classes. For example, you can belong to your department, let's say computer science or law or political science. You can belong to whatever department you are. Then in your class department, you can be an evening student or a morning student or a weekend student. So you can have two classes that belong to you that show you your identity as a group. So here we have two classes. In the classes for the text, we are going to put the text about the person over there. So in here, we are going to have a H1, and then we are going to say, hi, comma, I, comma, am. Then here we'll have a span in which we'll give a class name of highlight. And then over here, we'll close the span. And in the span, we are going to put a person's name here, which is John. Over here, I'm going to put a P tag over here. And then you can put whatever writing you want over here. Me, I'm going to cheat a bit and then just copy something and then put it over here. So I'm going to say, I am a passionate. If you are not passionate, what are you? So I'm a passionate developer. I'm a passionate beginner web developer focused on building clean, responsive, and user-friendly websites with modern technologies. Now, over here, I'm going to create another div tag. And then in this div tag, remember the div tags are just containers. So you are putting our items in containers. I'm going to put two contact lists there. One for someone to view my work, another one for someone to get in touch. So this is the design image I have. How does this design look like on my page? When I come here, I see hi, because we put CSSs on H1 tags, they apply. I'm a passionate beginner. If you want it, get in touch, and it is over here. Now, I have to work on the other side, which has to do with my image. In here, I'll put my image over here. We have no image over here. So let me see if I can get an image on my computer. So just any image. So I'm getting an image. And I've put the image in the file here so that over here, I can go and reference my image. So here, the source of my image is coming from FB that. So this is my image. And I have to add social links. So I'll create another div tag. I'll put it in a class called social icons. And then I'll use the fab icons to create icons for the various things. Remember, they are also coming from here. So the fab icons will allow me to create links for LinkedIn, Twitter, and all of those things. So in here, I have to close this div tag. Perfect. And then in there, I'll put in the fab icons. So these are all the fab icons. What does this give me on my page? It gives me a nice view like this. So I have my writings, I have the person, I have GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and I have all of my things showing over here. So this is what my home section is going to talk about. Beautiful. Now I must write the code for the home section. The home section is controlled by a class called hero. So in here, I'm gonna put my code. I'm gonna put my code in my style section, and I'm gonna say dot hero. Now my minimum height should be 100 VH. My display should be flex. All my items should be aligned to the center. My padding should be top 80 pixels. And then my background should be a linear gradient. And I want it at a degree of 135, comma. And my first color is going to be hashtag F8, F9, FF. And then my second color is going to be hashtag EE, F1, FF. And I want it 100%. And I want this one at 0%. Now, if I look on my page, I would see the color gradient I use in the background giving me a nice shade that gives the difference between this and that and the background which I have here. And it gives me a nice shade so that the colors are not just one, but it is a blend of two colors at a particular angle that is showing a nice fade for me. My hero content should display all my items in a grid. So it should display them in a grid. So over here, I'll have my items here being displayed in a grid. The grid should have columns of F, of one FR, one FR. So one here, simple. And because they are in a div tag, it is taking this div tag as one FR and this div tag as one FR and separating the two. Nice. I want there to be a gap between them. So there should be a gap of 4 REM. And I want all of the items should be aligned in the center. So it looks like this. Perfect. Let's go for the hero hyphen text H1. So we are going for, in hero, we are going for hyphen text. And it is a H1. And we want it to be play fair display 2.5 REM. We want the bottom margin to be 1 REM. And we want it to be dark. And we want the line height to be 1.2. So in here, if I refresh again, I have it looking like this. The fonts you use are very important. They make or break the application in which you are doing. Also, I want to target the .hero text. And I want to target the .highlights. And I want it to be not my primary color, but rather not my secondary color, rather my primary color. So it looks like, hi, John Doe. Beautiful. Now let's work on here. Oh, let's work on these ones. The P tag is too small. So the .hero text, the P tag should be 1.2 rem. The bottom should be 2 rem. The color should be gray. And then the maximum width of it should be 500 pixels. Wonderful. So over here, we have these things here. We gave them BTN, BTN. So we have to go and look for BTN and handle the BTN. So I'm going for this thing here. So BTN, and I want it to display in blocks. I want my padding to be 9, and I want the other side to be 2 rem. I want the no color for my button because I'll use another thing to control the color. I want no writing color on it because I'll use another thing to control that. I want the border radius of my button to be 50 pixels since I didn't state it at the top. I want the font weight to be 600. I want my transition to be transition, but I don't want any shadow on it. And I want all the text over there to be transformed. So text transform. And I want it to be in uppercase so that all the text there are in uppercase. I want the letter spacing to be 0.5 pixels. And then finally, I want my font size to be 0.9 rem. And also, lastly, I want the cursor to be a pointer so that when I come over here, my cursor will behave like a pointer. You can see it's behaving like a pointer. Now, in here, I'm going to say .btn primary. I want my color, my background to have the primary color. I want the color of it to be white, and I want the background shadow or the box shadow to be 0.4 pixels, 15 pixels, RGB, this. So that if I come in here, they are not taking effect. Let's see what. So over here, I said dot primary, that. Here is a button. So I am here. And why are you not taking effect? By now, they should start taking effect. So what did I do? So hashtag project. Over here, I said BTN. Oh, I forgot. So here it's supposed to be BTN, and then I'll do another BTN and say this is supposed to be primary. Good. Then this will be BTN outline, secondary. So I'll do it outline. But when I now come here, it should take effect now. It's still not taking effect. Let's see. Oh, what have I done now? Let's see. Here I said primary TN. So this is primary next class PTN. It's that. Display in block. That. Display in block. I want my padding to be 9. REM. This. I want my transition to be this uppercase. That's it. It's still not showing. Okay, it is showing now. But it is not. It's showing the background now, but it is not prevalent. So let's see. Background. Top. Everything here looks good. Looks good. Let's see. Okay. Didn't you not saving the things well or what? Okay. It's supposed to look like this. Then this one to give it its own color. So this one, when the person puts the cursor on it, we want it to change the color. So dot BTN primary, when you hover, we want the primary color to be dark. We want the shadow to be 8 pixels, and we want it to be 25 pixels here. And then the color that it will have should be the same color as this one. Shouldn't change. But here should be 4. That's a bit deeper. And then we want it to transform on the transit axis of the y-axis by -3 pixels. Okay. So when we come here, we refresh, I put the cursor on it to move it to the top small so that it gives it that effect. So the y-axis means moving it up and down. So -3 means that to take it to the top. So beautiful. So I'm done with that one. I can move to the outline. So the outline, we want the outline to also behave like this. So here I'll say dot btn hyphen outline, and then we want it to be 2 pixels solid. The variable will be, that's for the color, would be the primary color. And then we want the primary color of the writings to also be the primary color. And the background would be, we don't want the background to be transparent. I don't think that is needed. We just make the background margin left. We make the margin left 1 REM, just to give it a little gap from the other one. So beautiful. It looks like this. Yeah. So this is the effect we're making. And then when we put our cursor on it, so let me do this, copy it, paste it, and change this one to over. So when we put our cursor on it, we want it to have a background color. of the primary color, the writing should be white and it should transition by 3 pixels on the y-axis too. So that when we do it, did I save this? I don't think I saved it. Yeah, I did. So outline over. Now when we put the cursor on, takes up the color after. So we've done this half. We are left with that half to do. So that half, I'm going to deal with the image. So dot hero image. Just the image. And I'm going to say that it should be text align center. So the image will be in the center of our work. Just to make sure I am here. So I'm going for the hero, this one. That's what I went for. And here, the dot hero image. Now I'm coming for the image itself. We want the width of the image to be 320 pixels. We want the height of the image to be 320 pixels. So right there, we have sized the image down. We want the border radius to be 50%. That will make the shape we have done round. We want the object hyphen fit to be covered. So that over here, to do this and cover all the spaces we have done. We want the border for what we have done to be 8 pixels thick, solid, and white. So that again, our work will look like this. And then we want the box shadowing to come from the variable we created for box shadowing large. And then we want the margin to be 0 and auto everywhere. So it looks like that. Perfect. Now, the social links. So dot social links. And we want it to be display flex so that it is in one row. So display flex. We want the gap between all of them to be 1 REM. We want the margin top to be 2 REM. And we want to justify content in the center. And with that, we'll have them all appearing down here. They are still too small, so we need to make them bigger. So we say dot social. By the way, this one here is the div tag we put, so that now we can go and focus on the individual items using dot social a links. And in here, we are going to do the following. We are going to say the link item, the width should be 45 pixels. The height should be 45 pixels. The background color should be white. So far, this is what we have done. just to confirm, over here, the links. So here it is. I called it link icons. That's why it's not taking effect. So I'm wondering by now, it should be taking effect all over the place. So here it's supposed to be social links, not social icons. So in here, when I go and look at them again, I should have, yes, the icons taking shape now. Perfect. I want the icons to have a radius of 50. It should display flex. It should align item center. It should justify item center. The box shadow should be small. The color should be the primary color. And finally, the transition should come from our variable transition so that our work looks like this. So, John Doe, welcome. This is what we have. This is what we have. Is that okay?
Yes.
Let's move to the next section. Hmm. Here we go. So the next section is about. In the about, I know I need my uh, class container. Standard, I'll have a class container here. That everything will be inside. Then I'll create a H2 in container. And my H2 will have a class name called section title. Feed in. And then in here, I'll say about us. Or let me say, this one is about me. So, since I'm designing the thing for someone's program. Then over here, I'll have div space class. And here we'll have the about text, comma, and it should feed in, hyphen in. Then here we'll have another div tag here. So here I'll put some about information in which I like. Over here, you can put anything you want here. I chose to do a H3, a P tag, and a P tag, just to put some dummy about information over here. Sometimes let the text be plenty so that the person, you can have a lot of things showing in your site. So I'll just make them appear here so that if you want to copy them, you can copy them. This is the about information in which I put over there. So this is the about information, but I can't showcase the about information if I don't add some skills in which you have. You are telling the person about you. So here I'm going to add the skills that the person has. So inside the text, I'm going to say Dave class. I'm going to call this class the skills of the person. And again, the skills are going to be three so that it is well aligned on the page. So I'll have a div tag to keep each of the skills there. So the skills are going to be kept in here. So in each of them, I'm not just going to, in each of them, I'm going to have two divs over there. So I have one div called the skill name, and then I'll have another div for the skill bar so that you can see like a progress bar to see how good you are at the thing in which you are doing. If the thing you are doing, you have done 90% or 50% or something percent. So over here, the skill bar for the HTML, you have 90%. So I'll do the same thing for, let's say, JavaScript and other developmental skills. So I'll just create a skill bar for them. Again, I'll leave them on the screen so that if you want to type them out, you can type them out. But it's just boilerplate code just to make the thing look nice. So here we have these items here showing the percentages in which the person has done them, like a progress bar. And then to make the place look better, I'll put an image over there. So over there, this code over here is for the text. That means that this code over here will be for the fading for the image. So I'll just say div class fade in, hyphen in. And then in here, I'll put in an image. This time, I'm going to take the image online. So I would give you the link for the image in your WhatsApp. And then I'll put that same thing here since we are picking this image from Unsplash online. Unsplash, when you go there, you can get a lot of images that you can use to do your site. Some are paid, some are free. So use the free ones so that you and no one gets any problem. But with that, this is how our site looks like right now. So our site looks like this, right? Oh, you can't get an image from here. Oh, no, no problem. We can always download the image. So it's not a problem. We'll just download an image from online and place it there. Or we can even use AI to create an image for us. So let me use AI to create an image for us. And here I'll just say create image for about us section for a program. And Grok will create an image for us. These people, they look white to, for Ghanaian. This guy looks a bit younger, so let's take this. So I'm downloading the image, going to put the image in my file. The name of the image is too long, so I'm just going to call it KK. And then I'm going to put the KK over here, so that when I come over here, I have the image of KK over here as my about us. And then in the code I sent you, there are some inline code for the CSS. So again, let me just pause here some few seconds, and I'll go again and pause here. Finally, I'll go again and pause here. So if you want to type, now let's design this. Let's put this into a design that would make our about us look very nice. So make our about us look very nice. So the first thing we will do is go and attack the about content. So when I come here, I have my about text is here. Then my about content. So here I have my container. Here I have this one. I don't think I created an about content. Let me see. Let me create an about content just so that our code will have a place in which it can dwell in. Okay. So over here, I'm going to create a div tag so that I'll call it class about hyphen content. Just like how I did for the home, I created content and I created hero content so that all our code here should come in here, then we can manage it better from there. So in here, I'll just start with my dot about content. Okay, let's start with that. Or let's start with the about. So let me say my about should have a background of white so that we know the about is here, so that if the about has a different color for its background, then we can know when this stops and our about begins. So about, sorry, should have a background, right? And about is a class, so it should have a dot there, so that the about is all white. Perfect. Now, the dot about content should have a display of grid, not of flex. And the grid should have a grid template columns of 1FR, 1FR, so that the two things will display side by side. The gap should be 4, and then the item should align in center. Now we have our items appearing. This one, I don't think they are appearing how I want. So let me check. So here we have everything is supposed to be in everything is supposed to be in about content. So everything is in about content. And then I have the header section here, not being here, but rather here. So that the about information can come there. Then I can have the writings on one side, the image on another side. So yeah, good. So I can have about the writing here and our image over here, showing me about me, my company, or anything. Beautiful. Now, once we've done that, my structure being correct. Remember, HTML is for structure. So you must make sure you have your things well positioned. Now I can come in here and continue. I know that I'm doing a grid, so I know that it should be side by side. So if they are not side by side, I know I'm doing something which is wrong. Now in here, I'm just going to start writing my code for my about content side. So in my about content text, I want it to be font size 1.8 REN, bottom 1.5, not just one, but 1.5. And then I want my color to be dark. So we will see that our writings will stand out much more better over here, the H3 rest. The P tag for my about, I just want it to be bottom 1.5 REM, but it should be gray so that it also separates itself a bit and stands out. So the P tags, remember I did two P tags. So this is P tag 1, P tag 2. I have two paragraphs. There'll be a nice space between them. And I want their writings over there to be gray so that they will also stand out. Now, the skills. So I have dot skills. I want all my skills to have a margin from the top of 2 REN. So again, when I come back to my code, I'll see that all my skills are over here. They have a nice gap between them to showcase what they are doing. If I come over here, I need to confirm something here again. Let me open here. Let me open here. And then here I have my skills. So I have HTML over here, which should be the same percent. I have JavaScript over here. And over here, let me put in a span here that shows that HTML is 90%. Good. Because all the other ones have it. It's HTML alone that does not have. And then here, there is some CSS showing somewhere, which is this one here. It is not supposed to be there. I don't know why it is there. So this CSS thing can go out. Perfect. So that now I have HTML 90%, this, that, this, that. So here there's some small gap between them. So let me put a gap there so that it looks like this. Perfect. Let me come back here. And let me see my dot skills hyphen item. I want them to have a bottom of 1 REM so that when they appear on the screen, there'll be some nice gap between all of them. Very, very nice. So now let's work on the skill names. So dot skill hyphen name. And I want my skill name. We won't have most of these things. So let me delete it and type it myself. The AI is not helping me here. So in here, I want it to have a display of flex. I want you to have a justify content or space between I want it to have a margin from the bottom of 0.5 REM, and I want it to have a font weight of 500. So now our scale section over here will look like this. This will be here, then the percentage will be here, showing you how much percentage the person. We want the scale bar now, so that you show a bar that has your scale item. So scale hyphen bar, and then the scale bar is going to be the following. So all of these things are not needed. I'll type all of them out. I want the height of the scale bar to be 8 pixels. Perfect. I want the background color to be light gray. I want the border radius to be 4 pixels. And then I want the overflow to be hidden so that it will look like this. So we have a nice line over here showing the lines for our various skills that people have. Now in here, I'm going to say dot skill progress hyphen progress should be 100%, that the border radius should be 4 pixels, and then transition should be with that 100%. Perfect. So with that, I have this showing over here, and my skills have their percentages easing in to them. Quite lovely. And over here, I have the picture of my person also shown over here on the side. Today's class, we have taken the HTML, the CSS, and design. We are not done. We are left with contact and footer, but honestly, I'm tired. So we'll continue tomorrow at 3, and then we'll finish this up. And then we'll deploy it online to see how we can deploy a site for people to see. Is that okay? Yeah. Try your hands on it, but I'll send you the video in the next 30 minutes. Try your hands on it, and then you take it from
All right.
there. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.